So John pestered me and pestered me and pestered me about this, and we finally decided to roll this thing back into the shop. I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory on this, and then we'll show you what we've done so far. This is my old Kawasaki Bayou 220. Don't ask me what year it is because I have no clue. I got this thing a while back and it was missing a bunch of stuff. I replaced a bunch of stuff, got it running, and I rode it for a little while. But the problem was I took it out to Busco. I was going through the trails following those guys. Which side was it? Was it this side? This one right here. I was coming around a curve and the bolt inside on the spindle had backed off. The nut had fell off. The bolt backed out. And this tire came loose and folded around the curve and flung me into the woods. We got it rolled back over and I rolled it back to the trailer. And I wouldn't touch it for, well, it's been sitting back there, what, 3 years now?
Yeah,
3 or 4 years.
You were mad with it. You didn't want him to mess with it.
No. Recently, John got him a Bayou 250 and Matt also picked up a 220. And they said, hey man, you have a Bayou, get it running. John's been on me about this thing for what, like a month now? I finally said, okay, we'll do it. That's fine. But it needed a lot of work. This whole electrical setup was a mess. I never could get the starter to work on this. I replaced the starter. I replaced the solenoid. I had thought, well, maybe it was this connector. As it turns out, if you try to buy the one specifically for a Kawasaki Bayou, it's like 60 bucks. I got this one for 10. I'll have a link in the description for this connector, but it's the exact same thing. But yeah, I replaced almost everything here and still could not get the starter to work. So John came over and was looking at it and he said there's got to be something with the wiring. So we started testing stuff and we had voltage where we weren't supposed to have voltage and not at the correct times. We found that the thing was actually wired backwards, and I'll show you what I mean. So you've got your hot lead coming off of your solenoid. It runs down off of this lead, goes down, and it's supposed to connect right here on this pole on the housing for the starter. Well, they had the negative lead hooked to this, and they actually had the hot lead coming off the starter solenoid to the ground down here. It was wired pretty much backwards, and it actually fried this starter. Yeah, could never get this to work and couldn't figure out why. We swapped those around, and I put another starter on it. It's in there somewhere. And it actually works fine now.
Temporary battery in here off one of the China quads that Colin has.
Yeah, and it's way too small.
Yeah.
It's way too small.
It works good for about 2 starts, and you're not going to try any more than that.
Yeah. Carburetor's probably toast. We've got it starting, and we have compression. We do have compression. What we don't have is fuel, and we've still got to check the spark on it. So we're going to check those today.
Yep.
So now that we've verified we got spark, John is taking the carburetor out. And we got a new one right here. Little Amazon special, but it's made specifically for this 4-wheeler, so we don't have to change a bunch of stuff, make new linkage, any of that.
This choke will work with that carburetor, so.
Yeah, very true.
None of that laying down there to hit a lever or nothing. You can still use this original factory stuff.
Yeah, that thing's full of paint thinner. So we're gonna look at how green that is. God, that was some nasty fuel coming out of there. Whew, it stinks too. Lord have mercy.
It's like Christmas time.
It's gonna be a great 4-wheeler, lovely 4-wheeler. Might even climb a wall.
Hopefully if it hits a wall and goes up, you're not on it.
So generally how we do this is when you get these fuel lines, I don't want to run one on there that's too big because then it runs the likelihood of leaking or possibly falling off. Then you're dumping raw fuel onto a hot motor and that can go south pretty fast. You see right here, it's just a hair too small. It's also cold out here, so that doesn't help. So what we do, put a little bit of encouragement on it, just enough to get it warm so that you can stretch it out with the pliers. And you got to be quick about this, but you heat it up, you stretch it out, slide it over the fitting, and it works like a champ. Okay, so put that, and just take the pliers, just stretch it out real good. Works like a champion right there. Before you go cutting your fuel lines, you want to make sure you get your carburetor in place and everything hooked up before you go doing that, because you may have to route around something. You might cut your cable too short. You may have it too long and it kinks. I mean, there's a bunch of things that could go wrong. It's a lot easier to trim off some fuel line than it is to stretch it out too. Oh, there it is. Dude, that was way harder than it needed to be.
Well, one thing's for sure, that boot is not worn out.
No, and it'll probably hold the seal pretty good too. Now I'll just cut this line. I'll put a fuel filter in. So I'll put the fuel filter right about here.
And if the fuel line has already had fuel ran through it, do not heat it with a lighter.
You'd be waiting on your eyebrows to grow back. Might burn your shop down. All right, so we figured out that this battery does not have the cold cranking amps to turn this motor over, so we've got the jump box to kind of help it a little bit. John, if you would do the honors. We've got it in neutral, power's on. I like it. Give her the beans. Give her the beans. Exactly. What we need to do now, I've actually got an old Bayou in the backyard. I'm not going to go out there and film it because there's a bunch of crap back there. But I had actually put a new set of front tires on it. It ended up being more of a basket case than I anticipated. I'm going to get the spindle bolts and nuts for both the fronts because one of these, I believe, yeah, that one's bent. And I've actually got some new tires for the rear sitting back here. So we'll use those. I think we're going to call it good on this until the rest of the parts come in. Out of the way so people can appreciate it. We basically redid the front end of this thing in 6.5 minutes.
You got 3 different people working on the same four-wheeler, because you can just ask somebody, hey, how do you do this?
Yeah. Okay, she's done, kinda. We got everything straightened up that we wanted to get it running. I've still got a couple more things that I need to do. I've got to put new brakes on it, but they haven't come in yet. And I did order some lights for it, and I kind of want y'all's opinion on it. So I got these lights off of Amazon, and what I'm thinking is the pigtails for the front lights are gone. The one on the passenger side, the bulb and pigtail are ripped completely off. And the one on this side are just broken a bunch of different places. And it's all on the same circuit. So there's just one fuse for this whole four-wheeler. What I might do is go ahead and just run a separate circuit for the headlights, but I don't have enough wire on hand to get it done today. But I want y'all's opinion on placement. So what I'm thinking is, instead of trying to save these old headlights, just place these directly in front of them. Right here on this guard. I'll have to bend it back out. It's kind of bent up a little bit, but put them up here so that when I turn my headlights on, they act exactly as the regular ones would. And maybe down the road, I'll put a smaller light bar maybe up here or up here. But just let me know what you think in the comments. So John got his Bayou running. Mine's running. I believe John's waiting on tires for his. And this one needs brakes really bad. So I'm waiting on my brakes, he's waiting on his tires, and once they come in, we're going to actually do a riding video with these. And I'm really excited for that because it's been a long time since I've been able to ride this thing. Me, John, and Matt have also been tossing around the idea of doing a face-off with all 3 of the Bayous, possibly somewhere in Ohio. So when we make the trip up there to go work on the step van, we'll take the Bayous with us and make a day out of it, just basically beating on these Bayous just to see what they can handle. So if you want to see those videos and more, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you use the links in the description to pick up a t-shirt from MiniBike Apparel or a Rattle Can Customs t-shirt from Stover Customs. And until next time, y'all get up, get out there, and get after it.